I'm sick and tired of living in a van down by the river.
All right, so hey, it's good to see you guys tonight, man. How do you follow that? So, hey, we've been doing this series called I Am David, and tonight really is supposed to be a feature where we take a look at the life of David and Jonathan. And we're told in the Bible that David and Jonathan, their souls are knit together. And I kind of want to take this time tonight really to focus on that fact that Jonathan and David, we're told their souls are knit together. And the Bible just has a lot to say about relationships. I mean, it's full of information about relationships. And I was thinking about this. The Bible says in Philippians 4:13, here's a verse that you've probably seen on a calendar or on a Christian pin. Some of you even know it. Philippians 4:13. Can anyone quote it? It's right behind us. Okay, I can do all things through Christ. If you heard that verse before, it's often quoted, K-Love, all the time we hear that. But what you probably haven't heard is the next verse. So here you say, hey, I can do anything through Christ. But then Paul says in the very next verse, yet it was kind of you to share my trouble. And you Philippians, you know yourself from the beginning of the gospel, when I left Macedonia, no church entered into partnership with me in giving and receiving except you only. This is the Apostle Paul. And he's saying, hey, I can do anything through Christ, but hey, it sure was nice of you to be there when I was going through a tough time. And you, Philippians, you were the only ones who really received me, meaning what? He was often alone and rejected. The Apostle Paul was rejected. Now, you would think someone as holy as the Apostle Paul, someone who saw Jesus after the resurrection, that surely everything would just go perfect in his life. But that's simply just not the picture that the Bible portrays. And yet we do see throughout the scriptures this important of relationship. As early as Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it's a verse you hear quoted a lot at weddings. God says, it is not good that man should be alone. Right? This, of course, is the life verse of many single men. Right? It's not good that man should be alone. But look at some of these other verses that the Bible has to say about relationships. It says, he who walks with the wise will be wise, but a companion of fools will be destroyed. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Ecclesiastes 4:9, two are better than one. And there's these warnings as well about the potential of relationships and how they form and shape your life. 1 Corinthians 5:11 says, this is just some hard language here. It says, do not associate with anyone who calls himself a brother, but is immoral. With such a man, do not even eat. 1 Corinthians 5:15-33 says, bad company corrupts good morals. 2 Corinthians 6:14, and again, another verse you've probably heard quoted before, says, do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. A lot of verses about relationships. And the reason there's so many verses in the Bible about relationships is because they shape you. We know that Jesus wants you to live an abundant life, right? And a part of that abundant life is being in league with the right people, right? It's also about recognizing their role in your life. It can also save you a lot of heartache and a lot of, it can protect you from resentment by understanding the right roles for the right person in the right season of your life. Let me give you a few other examples here just out of the Bible. We see that God, with Joseph, for example, Joseph had a God-assigned destiny with an acquaintance, a butler, while he was in prison. And it was this butler who introduced him to Pharaoh. That was his key to connecting with Pharaoh. So God will use kingdom connections, sometimes even when the person isn't a follower of God. It would be Ruth. She had a God-designed relationship with her mother-in-law, okay? Even after her husband passes away, she maintains a relationship with her mother-in-law, Naomi. It's Naomi who makes the connection for her to Boaz, right? It was actually Uncle Mordecai that told Esther, hey, there's a beauty pageant that's going on. There's like this episode of The Bachelorette, an episode of The Bachelor that's going on. He was the one who told her about it and seemingly got her taking care of the entrance fee and doing the paperwork. Elijah, he had a God-assigned role in his life to pass on the mantle to Elijah. So Elijah passes that on to Elisha. That was God-assigned. And it was Barnabas was the one who connected the Apostle Paul to the church. The Apostle Paul was like a terrorist. He was like an Osama bin Laden. But it was Barnabas was the one who convinced the church, no, it's okay. This guy's legit. He's okay. And so the point here is it's being able to identify each person in their role in your life is very important for you to really see your destiny, and it's very important for you to live that abundant life. The question is are you alert to what God's doing in the lives of the people around you? And are you willing to accept their role in your life? All right, so let me give you a few examples here. And what I want to do tonight, this is often a message that I share in my office. And I don't know how many times I've done this. And so tonight I figured, you know what, I'm just going to do this with everyone, all right, to kind of explain how relationships work to a certain degree. Because in America, we really only have one word for friends, and it's friends, right? It's like we really only have one word for love. It's love, right? I mean, you can say, hey, I love tacos, I love my wife, all right? I mean, that's a big difference, right? But we only really have one word that we use for friendships, but we really see there's quite a diversity here. So let me kind of walk you through some relationships. I want you to think of these, each one, because God right now has each one of these are in your life as well. The first one is going to be acquaintances. Acquaintances are good. Normally we see acquaintances as a glass half empty, but acquaintances are actually pretty good. They've been God designed and placed in your life certain acquaintances, okay? So it's not really a negative term. It's a lot better than an enemy, right? So an acquaintance, for example, they may be your next job lead. They may know about a company that's hiring that can come through an acquaintance. An acquaintance may let you know, this person here, they're really a good mechanic. You ought to check out this person. An acquaintance, for example, they may connect you to other, they could be your next lead to your next roommate. For some of you who are in sales, they may have a lead for you into your sales. So do you have your eyes open for what God is doing in your life? Some people, though, are only designed to be acquaintances. Now, here's where tension comes. When a God-designed acquaintance, it's just that, but you want them to be more than an acquaintance. You expect them to be a friend. See, an acquaintance, they're probably really not going to come visit you in the hospital. More than likely, acquaintance really, they're not going to be praying for you. The question would be are you okay with that, of accepting the God-designed role that they have in your life? Joseph and the butler, they weren't designed to kick it and hang out together. They probably didn't vacation together once he got out of prison, but it was a God-designed acquaintance. So that's a good thing, actually, if you can see it for what it really is. If you expect more out of that relationship than what it's been designed to be, this is where resentment can build, and this is where things will get funky and weird in your life very, very quick. And so we have to be open to accepting the God-designed role in our lives for people. The next one would be friends. This is the one that we all want, really. I've often thought that the reason some shows like Seinfeld and Friends were so popular was because they portrayed people, a group of friends, doing life together, right? But is that only on TV? Well, I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But they're friends. So these are people who, they affirm us, they're committed to you, they're going to be there for you, they have your best interest in mind, and the Bible even tells us that the wounds of a friend are faithful, right? So the wounds of a friend are faithful. That means it hurts sometimes, that friendship. Here's why. Because they have your best interest in mind, they're going to point out some shortcomings in your life. Can you handle the truth? Right? Guys, do you need anything back there in the booth or anything I can help you with? Okay. So friends, they're just designed just specifically for that, right? I mean, God has brought them into your life and they care about you. The Bible even tells us also, Proverbs 17:17, that a friend is born for the day of adversity. They're for you. They care about you. They have your best interest. But it hurts sometimes if you're going to have a true friendship, because they'll point things out to you that kind of hurt. I didn't really realize I had that shortcoming in my life. Okay, but they've got your best interest. It's not malicious. They mean well in your life. Then we have a group of people known as, I'm going to call best friends. Okay? Best friend is what we're going to see from David and Jonathan. Their souls are knit together. And when I was a kid, my grandma, she used to say that you're lucky if you can count your best friends on one hand. And I was thinking, I got tons of friends, right? But now I understand what she meant. right? Because there's a difference between friends and acquaintance. There's a difference between friends and best friends, someone who's going to be there with you through thick and thin. Now with David and Jonathan, take a look at some of the things we see there. Jonathan was willing to promote David above himself. Well, that's a best friend. That's something an acquaintance probably isn't going to do. But a best friend, they truly will. They're willing to promote you ahead of them. Jesus will say, greater love have no man than this, that a man lay down his life for another. That's what a best friend would do. They would give you a kidney transplant if you needed it, okay? So they promote you, and they're willing to protect you, right? So Jonathan, he is looking out for David as well. He's the one who warns David that, yeah, my dad, he's psycho. He is out to get you, okay? You're going to lose your life if you stay here. So they're going to protect you. They're going to look out for you. So it really is a blessing to have someone who is a best friend, right? But there's a difference. You see how God has assigned best friends for us as well, right? So think right now in your life who these people are so far. Who are really just meant to be acquaintances? Who are friends? They really care about you. They've got your best interest. They're not out to hurt you. They've got your best interest in mind. And who are the best friends that you have? Who has God placed in your life that, you know what, if you call them, they really can be there for you, right? They will drop everything to be there for you. Thank God for them if you have them, all right? Now, obviously, ultimately, when you get married, your spouse will serve as this role as well. A few other relationships that you're going to have. You should have some mentors in your life, okay? David had Samuel in his life. Okay, a mentor, they're going to be speaking into your life spiritually. Okay, they're going to be guiding you into spiritual growth. So if you think right now, there's some people in your life that God has placed in your life right now, they have been placed by God for your spiritual growth. Who are they? And are you listening? Are you applying? You see what I'm saying? Because God has placed them in your life. It's not by accident. God has placed these spiritual mentors in your life. Are you actually listening and applying to how God wants to use them to mentor you, to take you into a different level, into a different place? Are you actually applying it? Now, here's where, again, the tension will come, is if you expect your mentor to be your best friend, or if you expect your mentor to be your friend. Maybe God's plan isn't for them to be your friend. His plan is for them to be your mentor. All right, so I'll give you a couple examples in my own life. I have 3 mentors in my life that I go to. But I maybe only meet with these guys maybe 5, maybe 6 times in a whole year. And normally it's because I have something that's going on in my life and I'm seeking their counsel on. All right. One of them I meet with on a regular basis just for accountability purposes. All right. I know they're going to be asking me some hard questions. Okay. But you know what? We don't go mountain biking together. We don't play tennis together. We don't vacation together. We don't go to Christmas parties together. Okay, so are you with me? Tension will come as if I'm expecting a mentor to behave like a friend, but God has designed it simply, no, I want this person to be a mentor in your life. I didn't call them to be your best friend. Okay, so are you with me so far on this? Are you seeing that? Hey, do you see how tension and resentment can build if you're expecting an acquaintance to serve as a best friend, but really God just wants them to be an acquaintance in your life? Because really we can't be best friends with everyone, can we? Right? We really can't be true friends to everyone. We need to be good people and strive to, but it's really just unrealistic, okay? Because we all have responsibilities. We're working. Some of you are working and going to school, and I'm going to get to a few other points here in a minute. You should also have a protege in your life. Yep, every single one of you. You should be making disciples. There should be somebody in your life that they're learning from you, that you're that mentor to them. But it's only if they're willing to put into practice that which they're learning. If they're not putting into practice, they're really not a true protege. But a protege, they truly want to learn from you. So there's some people right now in your life that you can speak into, right? So here's what I want you to do right now is think real briefly, who are those people in your life? Who are the acquaintances? Who are the mentors? Okay, who are your friends? Who are your best friends? Who are the proteges in your life? There's another relationship, of course, that you'll have one day, okay, and that'll be your spouse. Okay, David and Bathsheba, all right? That person will meet different roles as well, but your spouse hasn't been designed to be your protege, nor really should your spouse be your mentor. They have been designed to complete you. Okay, they have been designed to have a sexual relationship with you, an intimate relationship with you, and a romantic relationship with you. So this is how like spouses and lovers, so to speak, in today's culture. Again, do you see how things will get weird if, well, God only wants that person to be your friend. Resentment has come because you want them to be your lover. You want more than friendship. Okay, so are you with me? Are you tracking on this? Okay, you see why, this is why in the English language we're a little bit of a disadvantage because we just have one word, friends. But really, as you see in the scriptures, now there's different roles that God has. He wants to nurture you. He wants to move you forward into your destiny, and it's going to be through relationships. And so it's very important for us to recognize the right one. So not every acquaintance will become a friend. So you want to choose well who you will allow to influence your life, right? If they're a negative influence, the question would be is why are they in your life, right? Let me walk you through just a little bit more. So I know we got like just a boatload of text questions as well tonight, but keep in mind in this too. So going forward with relationships, and again, this is typically a conversation I have in my office with people. When they're feeling, they're not feeling valued, they're not understanding what's happening in their life. You shouldn't have to fight for a spot to be in someone's life. You shouldn't have to fight for a spot to be in someone's life. Okay. Rather, I want to encourage you to do this. Look for the people of peace in your life, right? What's a person of peace? A person of peace is a term really that's used by evangelists and missiologists to refer to Jesus when he tells his disciples, hey, when you go into a town, look for a person of peace. They will welcome you. Okay, so a person of peace, here's the deal. They already like you. Have you ever noticed sometimes you go to a restaurant and maybe the waiter or the waitress, they already like you. Maybe you've gone to a party and you meet someone for the very first time and you don't even have to work at it. They already like you. Guess what that person is? It's a person of peace. That's probably a relationship that God may want you to explore. If you have to really, really work at it, you shouldn't have to, right? They just simply may not be a person of peace. So here's what I want to encourage you to do. Stop working so hard to get people to like you that may never like you, right? And don't feel bad about it. They're just simply not a person of peace to you, right? But there's other people out there who are kind of like, remember a horse shack? They're like raising their hand, and if you'll open your eyes, take a look around. Who is already naturally nice to you? Who is already naturally reaching out to you? Who is already naturally friendly to you, and you're not even having to try? That's a person of peace. That very well could be a relationship that God wants you to explore. The other thing about relationships, and again, I kind of feel like you're dead telling people this, but relationships change, and it's okay. Relationships are often transitional, okay? Here's what I mean by being transitional. Time changes everything. Think right now, okay, this is a mental exercise. Think of who your 5 best friends were when you were a senior in high school. Your 5 best friends. See if you can even name them. Okay, how many of you cannot even name them? Raise your hand if you can't even name who were your 5 best friends. Okay, I can name 3 of them. Okay. Life changes, doesn't it? Right? People get married, people fall in love, people's job changes, people's work schedules change. I'm here to tell you tonight, and pretend you're sitting in my office, life changes and it's okay. Don't allow that to affect your self-esteem or your value by the fact people move on. It happens all the time. The Apostle Paul says this is in 2 Timothy chapter 4. Again, this is a verse that you're going to recognize. 2 Timothy chapter 4, beginning with verse 7, he says this. He goes, I have fought the good fight. You've heard this verse before. Often this is read at memorial services. I have fought the good fight. I have finished a race. I have kept a faith. And therefore it's laid up for me as a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award me on that day, the judgment day, not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. But then he says this in verse 9. So, see, here's what Paul is saying. I've run a good race. I have fought a good fight. I have lived the Christian life. But then he says this, do your best to come to me soon. Now, watch this, verse 10. This is the Apostle Paul. All right, so he's writing to Timothy. Timothy is going to become the bishop ultimately of Ephesus, actually. So this is going to be his successor. And Paul says this, the Apostle Paul, the guy who saw Jesus after the resurrection. For Demas, in love with this present world, has deserted me and gone to Thessalonica. Demas is a guy who served with Paul. He's been with Paul in the trenches. But Paul's now saying he's left. He's gone back into the world. How many of you have had friends who have already, in our lifespan, who have, they were on fire for God, they were there for you, maybe they were a prayer partner, but now, well, just like Demas, because of love of this present world, they have left. Look, it has happened to the Apostle Paul. Friends sometimes leave. Sometimes friends get caught up with the wrong friends. Sometimes friends go back into the world. Then he says this, Crescens has gone to Galatia, Titus to Dalmatia. What's happening here? God's calling his friends. These are people he's been in the trenches with. Look, when you've been in the trenches with someone, you bond, right? But now what's happened? Well, life isn't static, is it? Now, Crescens is called on. He's doing ministry. Titus, he's doing ministry. Everyone is moving on. We have to move on. So here's what I want to say to you. If you're expecting life to be static, like it is on Friends, 9 episodes of 9 years rather of Seinfeld, that's probably really just in the movies, right? That's probably really not God's plan, because God's plan is for us to move forward and to advance the kingdom, right? Now, when you get married, of course, obviously with your spouse. And so here's just 2 final points on this. You're in control of your own happiness. If you're going to be dependent upon a friend, a mentor, a protege, a best friend for your happiness, you're headed for a road of sorrow, all right? See them as an asset. See them for their God-designed role. Recognize that sometimes you're only going to have people for a certain season, all right? Sometimes that season is very short. Sometimes that season, maybe it's a decade, maybe it's a little bit longer. There's some friends I have that, when I see them, even after 10 years, we pick up right where we left off at, but I don't really see them that often, okay? I wasn't there when their kids were born, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's seasonal. God has called you to run a race. God hasn't called you to build a huge Facebook network of friends, right? He's called you to advance the kingdom. So let your happiness come from Jesus. And so this is the last point. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Here's why. He's always there, right? If you ever heard the old Footprints in the Sand poem, well, see, Jesus is always there. Your friends are going to come and go. Some of our friends will come and go, like literally, like someone will go into heaven, right? Our friends are always going to be coming and going. So see with the right kind of eyes, what is the role for this person in my life? How can I make the most of this person being my mentor right now? How can I really invest in this person, this protege right now? How can I take advantage of the fact that right now I have this best friend right now, right? Because we want to love the ones that we have with us when? Well, right now, because there's no promise or guarantee, or really, we shouldn't even really have an expectation that we will always have them. This is why it's always such a blessing. But Jesus, he's always there. That's why he's worth living a life for, all right? So let me get to some of these text questions. So, Kara, if you want to come on up, we can switch chairs here real quick.
Oh, thank you. Okay, the first one, if a girl asks me to go shopping with her, does that mean she likes me?
Well, I'll let you answer.
Okay, I was going to say,
I'm going to say normally no. I'm going to say if she asks you to go shopping with her, she definitely sees you as a friend. Maybe you have good fashion taste, but...
That's what I was going to say. If she asks you to go shopping with her, you might want to worry.
Yeah.
No, probably not, because honestly, I don't know that, we like a guy to see us, in at least early on, unless the shopping trip is on them, but yeah, I would say no.
Yeah, obviously it means she likes you as a friend, but to put any more into that would, I don't know, I want to say would probably be a stretch.
I would agree with that.
All right.
Okay, basically, I've fallen in love with a friend. How do I tell them without ruining everything?
There's absolutely no guarantee whatsoever. You very well may ruin everything, okay, by telling them that you want more than a friendship, okay? So it very well could ruin everything, or they could say, oh, I'm so glad you said that because I feel the exact same way, okay? It's a true, relationship will. like a roulette wheel. I mean, so you really just don't know. But here's what I do know what happened. If you're living in this type of a relationship where God's designed it to be friends and you want more, at some point you're going to have to express that, because if you don't, you're living in what I like to refer to as a phantom relationship. It's not a real relationship, and you're putting other relationships on hold that perhaps God's designed for you because you're hoping one day she'll see what a great guy I am, and she'll follow head over heels one day, or she's thinking, well, one day surely he'll see I am the right one for him. Perhaps it's possible, all right, but you're living in a phantom relationship. Normally, if a guy is interested in you, normally he is going to let that be known pretty quickly, okay? So you really do risk ruining everything, but really I'm going to say not necessarily. Here's why. Now you would know by asking. If you're a guy, go ahead and ask her. If she says no, well, then all right? Well, if she's not into me that way, now I know, and I can move forward with my life. I'm no longer living in a phantom relationship. Will things be awkward? Absolutely. They'll be awkward for a while, all right? But how much longer do you want to live in a phantom relationship? Okay, so now here's the other thing. If she says no, or he says no, but they still want to be friends, you have to accept that. You can't keep trying to trick them into falling in love with you, right? If you truly just want friendship, it has to be friendship, right? Look, no one's obligated to fall in love with you, all right? So you're saying, oh yeah, but look at all these things. I was there at the hospital. I was there. Remember, I changed your flat tire. Remember? Well, okay, so you're saying it was conditional. That's not a real friendship, is it? Okay, so you're only doing those things really because you were hoping one day I would fall in love with you. Okay, so you either have to make a tough choice here, decide, okay, I have to accept this in Jesus' name, that's just friends. And I can't pressure this person to fall in love with me. All right, they have made it crystal clear. Only thing they want is friendship. The question is going to be for you, can you really accept that? Okay. If you can't, probably need to go to the acquaintance level. Remember, acquaintances are good. There's no need for it to go to enemies. There's no need to be a jerk about it. See what I'm saying? So it's a really tough one. So I would recommend, if you're interested, just go ahead and let it be made known, all right? And that way you can kind of get on with your life. You can understand God's design for their role within your life. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I would agree with that, because you can create resentments then if, you're holding out for someone and you think that they're going to just, eventually see the light, and that's not good. So I'd say be honest. So
yeah, and yet I have to say this: friendship is the best foundation for a relationship. So in many ways, this was my story. My wife, we both were serving actually in a single adult ministry, and we developed a friendship because we were both on a leadership team, and at times she actually tried to set me up with people, all right? But over the course of time, we actually did fall in love with each other. So it does sometimes happen, but I had to eventually just ask her out. Once I realized, wow, I actually want more than just friendship, well, I had to make my move, all right, at that point, so to speak. So I was realizing, wow, I'm actually starting to feel jealous when she's talking to someone else, and I just had to be honest. Hey, this is what's happening. I wasn't expecting it. It was something that just happened, all right? So I was like, I got to put my cards on the table here, all right? So, but there were lots of beautiful girls in Scottsdale. I always thought she was beautiful. I just wasn't seeing anything more at that particular time. So God does work that way sometimes as well. So you know what? It's just a true roulette wheel. I would just recommend, if that's your intention, pray like crazy, and you need to reveal your cards on the table that you want more than just friendship. That way you can get on with your life. Man up, cowgirl up, right. Cowboy up.
Okay, I simply don't understand or know how to woo a girl. Any tips?
I haven't dated in 20 years or whatever, but
well, asking them on a date is good.
Yeah, starting off
open the doors.
Yeah,
yeah,
keep going.
May want to pay. Good. That's a pretty big sign when a guy pays.
Yeah, make them feel special.
Yeah, compliment
their looks.
Call them. You can send them little text messages. I'm thinking of you. Things like that. So that's a good way to attack that.
Yeah, generally they want to feel special, that they're the only one, that they're not competing, and that they're beautiful. Pretty much that works pretty well. So, but good luck to you. God bless you. As the great theologian John Wesley once said, good luck to you. Hope it works out.
Should you tell someone that you love them if you're pretty sure they're in love with someone else?
All right. You want to go first since you're the...
Well, I guess it would kind of go back to what you were saying before about if there's a friendship there, you may want to be honest that you have more feelings than what's being presented, but you got to be prepared for what the answer is, especially if you know that they're already in love with someone else. What's your motivation? Are you trying to break that up? So I think it would depend. I would need more information on that.
Yeah, I'm the same. If you're pretty sure they're in love with someone else, I'm going to say, just let it go. You know what I mean? And so, I wouldn't, but, again, as the great theologian John Wesley said, good luck to you. So.
Does a guy like it if a girl he likes texts him just to say hi?
Probably in the early days. It depends on how often you're saying hi throughout the day.
This is true.
Yeah, I think once is good. You know what I mean? Probably not like, I would say not any more than a dozen times a day.
Dozen?
So in the early stages, it's pretty cool, right? But after a while, it's like, okay.
My grandma always told me that you never bug a man while he's at work. So I kind of believe that, And there's times when I think it's okay to say, but 10 times, 5 times, no. Okay, oh geez.
Wow. Right.
I feel like one of my friends stole my best friend, and now they are better friends than us. I'm disappointed I introduced them and miss my former best friend. Is it right of them to have done this? I feel betrayed.
This goes back to the transition thing. Relationships change. And I think it's normal to feel hurt. You know what I mean? So this has happened to me a lot over the years. Okay, now in the early days, I really didn't like it, and then I would even try to guard some of my friends because I didn't want them to become friends with them because I might lose them, so to speak. All right, but you know what I've learned early on, into that process, as a new follower of Jesus, like I learned God was actually using me to make kingdom connections. And once I kind of saw that God's actually using me to develop kingdom relations here, and it goes back to David and Jonathan. Whoever's soul wants to be knit with me will be knit with me. It'll be natural. I won't have to work at it. If I'm having to work at it too much, too hard, it's probably not really meant to be. And I have to just say, thank God for the season we had together. And I would still consider them a friend, but things change all the time. All right, and so I think we have to be open to it. I think it's normal to kind of hurt a little bit, but see yourself as a kingdom connector for what God's doing. So.
Okay, I have one that came on my phone. How do I correct my expectations if I have wrong ones toward a friend?
Okay, one more time.
How do I correct my expectations if I have wrong ones toward a friend?
It's a great word, expectation. See, this is where resentment comes from. Resentment comes from unmet expectations. The questions are your expectations realistic? Okay, is it a realistic expectation? Okay, so that's what, first of all, you'll have to decide. Okay, because resentment, it'll just begin to corrode within you. So I would maybe just have a talk with them, or, maybe you're probably smart enough at this stage in life just to kind of say, I shouldn't have to be working at this so hard. You know what I mean? Perhaps God's changed this season and now they're an acquaintance. I would say there's no need to treat a person as an enemy if the season's changed. All right? Maybe they went from best friend to friend. That's still good. All right? Begin to pray. I think God will bring a new best friend. I think that's what, did it say best friend or not? Or no, that was the other question.
Friend.
Yeah, so God will bring a new best friend into your life. So be praying again. Look for that person of peace. Right? Who's kind of like Horseshack, like trying to get your attention. Right? Who's naturally already been inviting you out, but you've never said yes? Who's already been trying to make your friendship? So God will have a new best friend for you because He wants to move you forward into your future. There's a destiny for you as well. Okay, there's an abundant life for you as well. So thank God and celebrate, but move on.
Okay, the last one I have is, it's a little bit off topic, but you were talking about Paul earlier.
Yeah, real quick, anything you want to add on that one though?
Well, I think that I kind of go along with what you say that, I don't really have time to work at friendships. So, I have friends that I've been friends with for 20 years, and we probably talk like once a year. Yeah. But it's just, it works. And so, I think that if it's too hard, then it's okay to let it go.
Yep,
Sometimes it's just not meant to be, and people are just a season,
Yep.
but God always gives you what you need.
Right. Yeah, I'll just reiterate. It's normal to kind of like, oh man, I think that's normal. I think that's okay. What's not healthy is to build resentment, or then to start trying to guard, protect, and act all jealous and weirdo. So that's just celebrate the time you had, move forward, see who the next person of peace is.
Agreed.
So.
Okay, so last question that I have is regarding Paul. When is the last time that Paul appears in the Bible, and can you tell what happened to him? Or
Yeah, we don't know for sure. There's not like a specific time, obviously, with the book of Acts ends, with Paul. There's a shipwreck, and he's en route to stand before Caesar. And so we see that happen with Acts 27 and 28. So the book of Acts, the way that plays out. Now, when he writes the book of Romans, he expresses, I think around chapter 15, he expresses his desire to go to Spain. We don't know if he ever made it, and there's a great debate. Anyone who's from Spain will tell you, oh yeah, of course, absolutely, he made it to Spain. And Italians will say, oh no, he stayed in Italy, he loved Italy, ate lasagna every day. So there's great debate, but again, it's interesting because do you see where Paul's allegiance is? King of Kings. Right? A friendship, an acquaintance isn't going to keep me back from doing what God has called me to do. I think he knew there's new friends to be made in Spain or wherever God takes them. Right? So it gets weird and dysfunctional when you start living your life centered around your friends rather than Jesus. Okay, so live your life around Jesus as you follow the great shepherd. He's got some new sheep he wants you to meet that are on the road ahead. Don't become stagnant. Maybe they'll be with you on that same trail. And I would say the same thing goes for meeting your future spouse. Follow Jesus, right? The right person for you will be on that trail that Jesus is leading you on, right? He's not going to lead you to marry someone who's a non-believer. That's not his plan for you, all right? So keep following the Lord, and that right person will be on that path. So, cool. Hey, we like to close by taking prayer requests. So at the table you're at, just take some prayer requests there at your table and wrap up in prayer. And we've got some chicken for dessert and cake pops.
we have
for you.
leftovers.
Yeah, they're awesome. All right, thanks guys. Have a good evening.